Federal agents say the operation took less than a minute, but the impact could last for years. Late on the night of November 14, 2025, a quiet street in Forest Park, Georgia turned into the center of one of the most significant fentanyl seizures in metro Atlanta history. And at the heart of that federal takedown was a name that immediately caught the attention of the entire hip-hop community, Rico DeVille Buis, known publicly as FBG Casino, the family member of superstar rapper Future. But according to federal authorities, this wasn't a small-time arrest. This wasn't casual possession. This wasn't something agents stumbled on by accident. Inside a rented Airbnb, investigators say they uncovered a full distribution setup, including kilo-sized bricks, hundreds of thousands in cash, a weapon, and evidence suggesting the operation was much larger than the two men caught inside. Tonight, we're walking through the full federal affidavit line by line, breaking down the timeline, the evidence, and the details that weren't reported in early news articles, including the photos filed in court that show exactly what agents found inside the home. This is the full story behind the FBG Casino's arrest and what prosecutors say was happening inside that Forest Park Airbnb. According to the affidavit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, the operation began around 10 p.m. Not early morning, not midday. This was a late-night federal strike. Agents from the FBI Atlanta, DEA Atlanta, and local Clayton County officers met up near the home located at 1082 Holly Circle, Forest Park, Georgia 30297. The affidavit confirms the house wasn't a primary residence. It was listed on Airbnb. A detail investigators note is common for temporary stash locations. Airbnbs give traffickers privacy, fast turnover, and the ability to move quickly without using their own addresses. Before entering, agents observed two vehicles parked in the driveway. One, a 2023 Rivian, an electric truck registered to Rico D. Buis at an Atlanta address. Two, a white four-door sedan occupied by a male who had a weapon in his possession. His role in the case is still under investigation, according to the affidavit. This is one of the first big pieces that wasn't included in news coverage. The affidavit implies there may have been more than two people involved, including a yet-to-be-identified male with a weapon. Once agents were in position, the entry team approached the residence and issued verbal commands. What happened next is documented directly in the affidavit. Rico DeVille Buis and a female ran out of the residence through a side door. This detail is huge. None of the media outlets reported that a woman also tried to escape with Casino. Agents apprehended both of them at the rear of the home. When they searched Casino, agents found two cell phones, a rubber-banded stack of cash, amount to be determined. The presence of two phones is significant. In trafficking cases, this is often interpreted as one personal line and one business or communication line. While Casino and the unidentified woman were detained outside, agents continued giving commands. Eventually, David Estevan Montillo Diaz, a 23-year-old from Southern California, walked out of the residence. Agents say Diaz was the only other person inside the home. This detail supports what prosecutors later said in court, that the totality of circumstances strongly suggests Diaz was selling fentanyl to Buis, though the charges remain allegations at this stage. Once all individuals were secured, agents entered the rental home. The affidavit provides one of the clearest breakdowns of the scene investigators walked into, and the images included in the filing show why this case escalated instantly into a federal-level prosecution. Kilos in the kitchen agents say that as soon as they stepped into the kitchen, they saw multiple kilogram-sized bricks out in the open. One photo shows 3 to 4 tightly wrapped kilo bricks placed directly on the stove, next to a roll of plastic wrap, paper towels, and common kitchen items. This wasn't a hidden stash. This was active product processing. Duffel bag filled with bricks. Another image from the affidavit shows a black duffel bag sitting on a dining table. Inside the bag are large rectangular white wrap packages, consistent in size and appearance with kilo bricks. This bag appears to contain a significant portion of the 17 kilograms agents documented in the complaint. $300,000 in cash inside a cardboard box. Agents then discovered a half-open cardboard box in the kitchen area. Inside the box were dozens of tightly stacked bundles of U.S. currency, each banded with rubber bands, roughly $300,000. One of the affidavit photos shows these stacks arranged in rows, filling the bottom of the box. Additional currency and Casino's bag agents also located a separate bag belonging to Casino that held 3 more stacks of cash. When asked who should receive the bag, the affidavit notes, Buice first said to give it to his mother, but then claimed it was not his bag. This contradiction is documented word for word. Among the seized bricks, investigators noticed something unusual. Some of the wrapped kilos had a purple tint visible through the packaging, but one brick stood out completely. A single brick was wrapped in black packaging, stamped with a Louis Vuitton LV logo. An affidavit photo shows the LV stamped brick lying inside a clear plastic tub, partially unwrapped for inspection. A field test performed on that specific brick came back positive for fent. This detail, the luxury stamped fent, was highlighted in media reports, but the affidavit confirms it directly with visual evidence. Once agents moved past the kitchen, the situation escalated even further. Inside bedroom 1, investigators found 4 partially used kilo bricks. Not the clean, untouched packages seen in the kitchen. These were open, partially harvested, and consistent with ongoing distribution. That detail alone told agents they weren't walking into a storage house. This was an active operation. But bedroom 2 is where things took another turn. Hidden under one of the beds was a handgun, later documented in the affidavit with a clear photograph. The weapon was fully accessible, positioned inches from the floor, and the affidavit says federal investigators are still trying to identify the owner. That means one thing: this case is not done. More names could come. On top of the drugs, cash, and weapons, agents found something every federal prosecutor pays attention to: 2 cell phones intentionally damaged. One phone was shattered beyond normal wear. Another had signs of being crushed or slammed. This is extremely important for the narrative. Destroyed phones are often interpreted as an attempt to hide communications, a sign of a broader network, potential evidence of coordination, a panic response to the raid. The affidavit doesn't speculate, it simply documents the condition, but the visual of destroyed phones next to kilos and cash paints a very clear picture for agents of what might have been happening before they entered the home. The affidavit breaks down the items found in the house in a way that federal prosecutors use to establish intent to distribute. Here's what was inside the Airbnb and why each item matters. Money counter indicates cash counting for bulk transactions. Food sealer machine used to vacuum seal narcotics, plastic wrap, and shrink materials. Packaging supplies, open kilo bricks, evidence of active processing. Stove with bricks sitting on top, drying, prepping, or dividing product boxes of cash. Proceeds from distribution: multiple phones, communication with suppliers and buyers, weapon under the bed, protection for product and money. To federal eyes, this isn't a debate. This isn't personal use. This isn't recreational possession. This is the layout of a mid to high level fent distribution setup. And according to the affidavit, the total weight of the drug evidence documented at the scene was a minimum of 17 kilograms. 21 kilograms is the upper estimate based on packaging and additional partially processed bricks. Either way, agents say the amount found could kill millions. Not a figure of speech, a literal calculation based on fent toxicity. Right after the arrest, federal officials confirmed this case is part of a much bigger national initiative, Operation Take Back America, a Homeland Security Task Force mission created under Executive Order 14,159. This is a whole-of-government crackdown involving FBIDEA, Homeland Security Investigations, ATFICEHSIUS, Marshals IRSCI, Diplomatic Security, U.S. Postal Inspector Secret Service Labor OIG. This isn't just Atlanta police showing up. This is the federal government rolling out the biggest anti-cartel, anti-trafficking task force in U.S. history. In this case, the Airbnb raid is now one of the first public examples of that force in action. During the press conference, officials repeated one phrase: they cannot hide. That line was not random. That was strategic messaging straight from DOJ headquarters, meant to warn anyone in that pipeline. Casino is facing the federal charge of conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute fent, a charge that carries 10-year mandatory minimum up to life in prison. Death penalty eligibility if enhanced under certain trafficking statutes. Diaz faces the same charge. But here's where the complaint gets even more intense. Prosecutors are requesting that Casino be held without bond, citing 1. Serious risk of flight. They say Casino has access to large amounts of cash, a pattern of hiding assets, inconsistent statements about income too. His lifestyle doesn't match his claim income. Casino allegedly told authorities he makes $2,166 a month as a studio manager. But prosecutors point out he recently lived in a $4 million home. He has 3 vehicles, including a Mercedes and BMW. He carries designer bags. He had tens of thousands in an Airbnb, thousands more in his pockets during the arrest. The filing says he was not forthright about his finances. That's a direct quote. Combined with the attempt to flee through the side door, prosecutors believe he may try to escape the jurisdiction if released. The affidavit never mentions Future. No prosecutor or agent has linked Future or Freebands to this case at all. However, the public storyline is unavoidable. Casino is not a distant cousin or a friend of a friend. He is Future's real brother and a visible figure in Freebands. News headlines are already attaching the name Future's brother to every update, and the hip-hop community is talking. But legally, Future has zero involvement, and the documents are clear on that. Still, the family tie makes this arrest one of the most high-profile fent cases Atlanta has seen in years. Forest Park has become a hotspot for trafficking because of how perfectly it sits between Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, fast highways, and neighborhoods filled with short-term rentals. That combination gives traffickers privacy, speed, and the ability to disappear, which is exactly why federal agents say the Airbnb on Holly Circle was being used as a full-scale distribution hub. Inside, they found everything that signals active drug movement: open bricks, packaging tools, a money counter, boxes of cash, a gun under the bed, and destroyed phones that investigators believe may hold clues to a larger network. The fact that a third man was found outside with a weapon, combined with the unknown ownership of the handgun under the bed, shows clearly that this case is not finished, and federal prosecutors are already signaling more arrests could come. Both suspects, including FBG Casino, Future's brother, are being held in federal custody, with prosecutors pushing for no bond, citing unexplained assets, inconsistent income claims, and an attempted escape during the raid. Their next steps involve detention hearings, grand jury review, lab confirmations, and potentially expanded charges if investigators uncover more links behind the 17 kilos, the LV stamp brick, and the cash flow coming through the Airbnb. And while the affidavit makes it clear Future and Freebands have zero legal involvement, the cultural impact is unavoidable. A bust of this size, tied to someone this close to one of Atlanta's biggest stars, immediately becomes national news, raising questions in the hip-hop community and drawing heavy attention to fentanyl's growing presence in the South. So the story ends here for now. A late-night raid, a Freebands artist detained, a California courier in custody, and a Homeland Security Task Force warning that this takedown saved thousands of lives. But if history and federal patterns mean anything, this isn't the final chapter. With missing phone data, unclaimed evidence, and an unidentified gun owner still in the background, investigators believe what happened inside that Forest Park Airbnb is only the beginning, and the next moves in this case could expose a network far bigger than anyone expected.